warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining today's NetTalk. I would like to remind you that this is just a prelude to the April Tourism Seminar Series. Links and dates, you're going to find them in the chat. But for today, we are going to talk about the much talked about film or documentary, you may call it, called The Royal Tour. This documentary has been produced and hosted by the famous journalist for such kinds of documentaries called Peter Greenberg. He used to do these documentaries for countries, presenting the countries in such a way and calling them royal tours. Now we're going to talk about this film made specifically for Tanzania. And for this talk, we've invited, as you can see, two guest speakers, Sairis Bugeraha and Dr. Delphine Kessy.
Yeah.
I have this great pleasure to introduce to you live from Tanzania, Dr. Delphine Kessy. She is a lecturer of tourism studies at the St. Augustine University of Tanzania since 2009. In the year 2017, she has been researching and implementing projects on sustainable tourism development in Mwanza. She's attentive in researches aimed at inclusion of the other for regional development. Dr. Kessy served in the Tanzania Tourist Board as a member of the board of directors and being one of the founders of a member of the World Tourism Network, she is able to bring in a broader perspective on this topic today. So that is Delphine Kessy. You can just wave into the camera.
Hello, everyone.
The other guest speaker is Sairis Bugeraha. Bugeraha, right? Yes. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Tourism and Cultural Heritage from the University of Dodoma. She is the Executive Secretary for Tanzania Association for Sustainable Cultural Tourism and is also the co-founder and coordinator of Pugu Hills Eco-Cultural Tourism. With her more than 10 years experience in the travel and tourism industry, she has a number of issues to share in this forum. So you can give all of them an online applause or a virtual applause for being here. We're very happy that you have been able to join us. And then I would say we can start with the questioning session. Now, I had confirmed that Sairis and Delphine watched the movie since it's in their area of work and operations. So I would like to begin with the first question that will be directed to Dr. Delphine Kessy, which is, straight going to the film. What is the goal of the film and who is this film aimed for?
Right, thank you so much. As every one of us have seen the trailer, and for those of us who were lucky to see the whole film, the aim of it is to market the country. The aim of it is to tell the world that we are open and we are ready to welcome anybody who is who is interested to visit us. Also, a person who is ready to invest in our country. That is the goal as I look at it. And of course, it is aimed to every one of us, to the world at large, the richer, the marginalized, the average citizen, the poor, for all the people that, the film is for all the people that they have the rights, everyone is welcomed to Tanzania. You know, this is how I look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the tourists? Do you think it is targeting a specific type or kind of tourists?
You know, tourism is very wide. And then when you are talking of specific type of tourists, then specific, you know, of what? Something like this, because tourism is surely very wide. Yes. But quickly, if I watch the film, I can say it is talking about eco-tourists, it's talking about the beach tourists, talking about adventure tourism, the safari to the Serengeti, is talking about business tourism. That's, you know, and of business tourism, meaning that you can come and later invest with us, you know, from this perspective. So it is, I think it is many things in one basket. Okay. So, yeah.
Thank you. Now, Sairis, back to you. What is your opinion on this film, The Royal Tour Tanzania, generally?
For me, it's a mixed feeling. It's an eye-opening. It shows political commitment on the sector. It also pushed the stakeholders in the industry to follow the footsteps of her excellence and act accordingly on the sector. But on the other side, I'm like, because it's more of the same circuit. It's more on the north end. It's the same Serengeti, Kilimanjaro, Zanzibar. It's still on the giants. We have other sector. We have other circuits like the southern. We have the Ruha. We have the western, the Katavi, Gombe, and Mahare. So you find they're a little bit not exposed in the series. So, and Tanzania is more than northern circuits. And on the sustainability or on the cultural tourism, where my area of expertise is, it's a little bit not well exposed. So, but it's just a start. It's just a beginning. I believe we have more than that, as Her Excellence is very committed on this sector. So probably on the next shot, maybe those areas will be taken into consideration, because Tanzania is more than that. It has a lot. It is indeed unforgettable. Yes.
Thank you for this broader perspective. Now back to you, Dr. Kessy. What reactions to the film did you perceive from maybe your co-workers from the community?
Oh my gosh, for me, it's really, wow, very empathetic, because the film came for me, you know, I cannot say it was the right time, but then it was at the time when we were almost stuck. The tourism was not going. And here we see Her Excellency coming in to tell the people, yes, we can still do it, you know. Like during the pandemic, this COVID pandemic, I traveled around the country to see what is happening. I went to Zanzibar, I went to Kilimanjaro. That's where, of course, that is my home. And then I went to Arusha, where I grew up, and I found almost everything was stopped. There were no businesses. People had no, you know, like the city was standing. So when this film was released, they said, oh my God, there's somebody in this country who is thinking about my people in Kilimanjaro, my people in Arusha, the people in Zanzibar. You see, so it came at the right time where we really needed it, to tell the people in the tourism industry that the country is with them. But not only that, but to show the willingness of the government that we support tourism, because also there were some some people were thinking that tourism is standing on its own, like the private sector, and therefore they had no government support like this. And so we see here Her Excellency coming in to tell the people, and of course, taking us to a high stage, which we never expected. So for me, it was very empathetic. You know, it was also, like, as I said, it is also, you know, a welcoming note to those who thought that the government was not in supportive of tourism.
Okay. And the reactions from the other people in the tourism industry? Or
everyone was happy. I met the people from the northern circuits, especially those who were, I cannot say that they were desperate, because they are, you know, there were some domestic touristic activities, and you know, the campaigns were going around and the likes, but then they said, oh, this is very perfect. We were almost dying because you had no international visitors here, and sometimes international visitors are the people who are paying higher, something like this. And therefore, of course, the domestic tourism was keeping the business going, but then you wouldn't gain much from it. Therefore, people were happy, and you know, they were encouraged by the actions of the government, and specifically of the President Samia.
Okay, now that that you mentioned that it just came at the right time. There's a question I see in the chat. I'm just gonna chip it in. Did this film or the release of this movie increase domestic tourism? Have you seen any changes, or it's still to expect?
I cannot say exactly it's resulted to the increase of domestic tourism, but I'm saying people have been cheered up, you know, and also because of the campaigns which are going on in this country, you know, trying to tell people tourism is a business, because it was not the notion before. You know, I see, you know, like people being enlightened and liking tourism, and also understanding tourism beyond what we used to know. For example, we only knew tourism was only about wildlife, was only about visiting Zanzibar. And some of us actually, before we joined tourism, for example, I didn't know, you know, what people were going to see in Zanzibar, because I knew it was only about wildlife. So what is in Zanzibar, you know, to attract tourists? So today, the perspective of people have changed. We see people talking of cultural tourism, and even more, you know, like domestic tourism coming up, but I cannot say exactly the number, you know, the changes that have taken place as a result of this film, because, you know, like I don't have, you know, a starting point to say maybe domestic tourism was at that stage, you know, before the film, and that today the increase is this much.
Yeah, but maybe it will come later. I hope, because that would really also give a view the impact of the movie. Sairis, how do families and communities benefit from tourism?
Families and communities are benefiting if they are involving, if they are part and parcel of this industry. And I believe they have to be, first, they have to be educated, they have to be trained, and also we should build capacity for them. How can they participate directly in the industry? Because mostly locals are not involving directly, unless if they're working in the field, maybe working in the hospitality industries, or maybe working the tour companies. But this approach, the sustainable tourism, which we are more doing, or the cultural tourism thing, of which just a layman, just a normal Tanzanian, maybe a person who doesn't even know how to read and write, can host visitors in their homes, in their houses, and gain directly from the industry as a host, maybe for local food experience, or maybe for a local guide, you know, with a translator in the middle, you know. So these people are participating directly and earning directly. but they won't be able to do so unless if they're empowered, if they're educated, and if we give them the capacity on how to turn their unique cultural and natural attractions into tourism product. And this is what we as Tanzania Association for Sustainable Cultural Tourism are doing. So it's a win-win. We create opportunities for ourselves, but at the same time, we create opportunity for local people, specifically women and young people. Yes. So the keynote is they have to be educated, empowered, and given a capacity building. But on top of that, the stakeholders in the industry, maybe the Tanzania Forest Service, TANAPA, TAWA, and so alike, they have to structure in a way that it gives more room for local people to invest more into this kind of tourism in terms of the levies, taxes, and policies, that they should be a bit favoring local community to be into internal investors into social tourism enterprises like what we are doing. So somehow it's a little bit difficult to jump in because of the taxes and levies and so kind of a thing. So if it's done that way, I think the community will directly benefit from the industry.
Yeah, thank you very much for this elaborative insight on how families and communities can benefit. Now, tourism is also often linked with negative effects, especially mass tourism. Like when large numbers of tourists come and visit a place, there is the effect of causing a lot of massive garbage. Now, these problems are of course not mentioned in the film, but in your point of view, Dr. Kessy, is sustainable tourism compatible with mass tourism? And how can the rights of indigenous communities be upheld in that matter?
Sustainable tourism and mass tourism are not the same thing. They are different. Sustainable tourism has got a focus of first enabling the environment of how tourism could be managed or even developed. Sustainable tourism focuses on the society, see the benefits of networks that we create, the benefits of communicating with you, for example, Dorcas. Sustainable tourism focuses on empowerment, on institutions, building up the institutions that can support tourism. And also it looks also at the environment to see how are we managing the environment, the carrying capacity, so that you cannot distract the environment where the living organisms are existing, because if you exceed the limit, then you are going to destroy the ecosystem. So mass tourism is just the opposite, where you see a large number of people moving into one destination, for example, and then you exceed the carrying capacity just to make it even more better. And then they are opposite. But then, and in tourism, just to tell the audience here, in Tanzania, we don't have mass tourism yet. First, this country, it is just opening for tourism. It is because we hadn't engaged in tourism in the past. So if you see all these, initiatives marketing the country, we are opening the tourism, and the understanding of the local community, as Sairis just said, it is now we are starting to understand what tourism is and how better could be managed. And therefore, we don't have so far mass tourism in Tanzania. So if you are talking of how the rights of the indigenous communities could be upheld, I think the same as what Sairis said, people have to be empowered. if you are empowered, you cannot take care of yourself. And of course, if you are educated, if you know what you should do for yourself and for your people, then it is when we can say my right have been upheld. Unless I didn't understand the question, this is
let me paraphrase quickly. Thank you for giving us the distinction of mass tourism and sustainable tourism. But then let's just focus on the garbage that is being created because of the concentration of tourists in areas, like Sairis mentioned, in the northern area, especially Kilimanjaro and Zanzibar. There are lots of people visiting those places mostly, more than other places. Now, there is some effect that could be seen, the garbage problem. How does sustainable tourism deal with it? Let me put it that way.
Right, thank you. As I said, Dorcas, we have limits which are scientifically justified.
Okay.
You know, we set, for example, in Kilimanjaro National Park, for example, they say if you reach a certain limit, which of course I haven't found out, or rather, because I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro at the age of, I don't know, 17 or so, was 2000, yeah, exactly 2000. So I don't remember the numbers for now, the limits, I mean. So I believe the people, the conservationists who are in Kilimanjaro cannot allow this limit to be exceeded.
Okay, there's a limit. That's how, that's how it's regulated.
Yeah.
That's why we cannot talk about mass tourism, because there's a limit that regulates it not to exceed. Okay. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you also for clarifying it that way. Yeah, I was gonna ask Sairis, maybe Sairis, you could also chip in and give your views on this. How does sustainable tourism, how is it compatible with, from that previous question, with a large number of tourists coming to a country, and how can the locals how can the rights of the indigenous communities be upheld?
Like what Doctor said, Tanzania, we are not that much into mass tourism. First of all, I think our tourism slogan is few people. It's with a high value of money. I think you pay a lot. You know, we need few tourists, but who pays a lot?
Okay.
Protect. That's the national I think concept on tourism, on how we sell our tourism. And if you are to sit with the tourists, they will tell you Tanzania is more expensive than Kenya and other countries. I think the country did that way to protect its resources.
Okay.
But
okay,
but if you look at the future, you see maybe there is a way that, because we want to tap the opportunities of the tourism. If you reach a point, maybe the country change its orientation. Then if you are going to that kind of tourism, how are we well prepared for that?
Okay.
Or how will we sort it from the mass tourism? From my perspective, I think we just go back to the education, empowerment, and train, and it's all about the policies.
Okay, thank you.
All about policies, and it's also about the enforcement, because we might have good policies, but if they are not well enforced, then it's like So we have to, and I believe it will reach a point we change the orientation. We'll start to let more people coming in because of the statistics, the economic and these depressions and everything. We reach a point that we change our orientation and lessen the payments of Tanzania tourism, and we will attract more mass tourism. So we have to get ready for that. Yes.
Delphine wants to add something to what you said. Am I right?
I wanted to add that, anyway, just to put it even clear, to put it clear that the strategy of the country is LVHV, low volume, high value. Okay. But then it doesn't mean, but then it doesn't mean that you, the country is expensive. Of course, there are those claims, but then that is also a relative term. It's, you know, it's expensive compared to, they will tell you, to Kenya, to maybe South Africa or Zimbabwe. But then what is in Kenya, is it in Tanzania? What is in Tanzania, is it in Kenya? You know, like this. So it's a relative term. And of course, customers, if you are a customer, you always say, you know, why can't I try this alternative? So that's it. But then the strategy of the country is LVHV, low volume, high value, because of how we protect the environment. You know, the cost of maintaining the kind of attractions that we have in the country results into this strategy. Thank you.
Dr. Kessy, there's a question that is in relation to this mass tourism. Before I move to the next question, I think I'll just read it for you right now. So one of the participants here is asking, this question is directed to you, Dr. Kessy. The arrival of masses of tourists is one thing. Another is the authorities putting up a 5G antenna on top of Uhuru to attract masses of young climbers. How does that, how is that compatible with sustainability? How does it go with sustainability?
Thank you. I think it's just this antenna that was put on Kili, but then it doesn't mean that it will attract the, you know, the mass tourists, because it has not yet happened yet. Therefore, we cannot comment on that because we haven't seen anything as such happening as of today. So I think the idea of putting the antenna there was to easier communication for anybody who is at the top, you know, whether it's mass or, you know, few number of people or large number of people, you know, like anybody will need communication, and that it doesn't mean to facilitate mass tourism for me.
Dr. Kessy, you wrote an article that advocates the involvement of indigenous communities in tourism, that it is a result of different strategies and interventions that aim to empower them to gain control over the industry as they benefit, so that they benefit from it. Recent events in the area of the Ngorongoro crater indicate that this does not always work. So there are Maasais that were evicted from the area of the Ngorongoro crater, and it has caused international media attention. It has caught international media attention, and a debate about conservation versus human rights had been sparked. Could you share your thoughts on this? This question had also been asked by a participant here, by the way, who asked, let me just read so the person knows the question is included in mine. Why are the Maasais in Serengeti and Ngorongoro being evicted from their familiar surroundings and homelands on the reasons that it is, for the reasons that it is for wildlife conservation, but it's actually for tourism purposes?
Right, thank you. I think
your views.
This empowerment thing, or the involvement of indigenous communities in the tourism systems, you know, it depends on the perspective. But again, you see this article that you are referring to, I wrote it in 2017, and it was preceded by another article that I wrote in 2013. This other article that I wrote in 2013 is talking about the rights of a silent stakeholder in the Serengeti National Park, and of course included the areas of the Ngorongoro. You know, at this time, when I was talking about this, about the rights of the silent stakeholder, I meant anything that is not human, you know, anything that cannot talk, cannot speak for itself in the Serengeti National Park. I was trying to raise my voice to tell the people that in the Serengeti National Park, you know, the space, you know, the environment is being distracted. The space maybe in the near future, or, you know, because we are talking of conservation and at the same time, people are talking of development. The two things cannot go together. But then empowerment is empowerment. It, as I said, it depends on the perspective, perspective of someone. For me, when I was writing this paper in 2013, my voice was to say, if the space in the Serengeti will be full of people, then we are in a danger position. We'll lose our what we call the big fives, the special species that we normally, want to see that they continue to live. And then this 2017 article is talking about empowerment because involving of indigenous in the context that, the tourism that we have in this country does not belong to the indigenous community. If you read very well this article, it's talking about 70 to 30 70% of indigenous operating in Arusha area, because this is where I conducted the study. But we have only a few multinational companies, 30% controlling the whole business of tourism on the same region. So I was telling people that these indigenous, it's not because they do not know how to do tourism. No, it is not because they do not know the business of tourism, but it is because they do not know, they don't have the techniques of doing the business. And therefore they feel like they are not in the business of tourism. And therefore they were feelings that, oh, we are left behind. People have taken our positions. People are controlling the business of tourism. But eventually, no, it is a fact that if you don't know how to do the business, you will be left behind. So my empowerment meant these people should be should be trained to do the business in the way it should be done. And therefore, even this tourism that we call tourism, for now, it is a diversified kind of tourism that we see many other people working in the tourism business, but we don't see, involvement of the indigenous to a large extent, and therefore call it indigenous tourism. For now, it is a diversified tourism. So it was from this context that I was speaking about. The issue of evicting the Maasai people or whoever from their land, I don't think whether it is also even away from this concept of empowering, because here, people are developing, we see people living using the modern ways of living, and the Maasais in the Serengeti, for me, have remained the same. A person living in a village without electricity, without water, and competing with animals for forages, for land, for cultivating. For me, I think it was the right action which came at the right time, because, like for me, we were late to do this, and especially from the planning point of view. And this is what I argued in 2013, to say maybe the government was late in planning, and that is why we could see the numbers of indigenous, the numbers of people living in the Ngorongoro or Serengeti was increasing. And at this moment of time, the actions were not that much. And therefore, if they would have increased without actions such as which was taken by our president this time now, it means in the future, then we could be talking of something else. And therefore, I think for me, it has come at the right time. These people have been taken to Somera, where there's completely a different life. And I think they are happy, and they were involved in deciding whether they want to live or not. Thank you.
Well, there were a number of demonstrations, but Sairis, what are your points of views on that? Just basing on the eviction of the Maasais and land grabbing, taking them out from their natural traditional land versus human rights. How do you see this situation? What is your point of view on that?
It's complex.
Okay. I hope you're not frozen right now. You left us with the complexity here. Sairis is frozen, but let me read from the chat. Somebody wanted some clarifications from what you said, Delphine. The question in the chat is, what is your idea of involvement of indigenous people or empowerment and cultivating?
So maybe I don't understand these two words which have been combined, empowerment and cultivating.
No. Yeah. That's.
But I
just
know.
read involvement of indigenous people. Maybe you elaborate on that.
Yeah, involvement of indigenous people.
Yeah, what is meant by that, involvement of indigenous people and empowering them?
Of course, we know from the past or from literature, it is known, or from many other experiences, sometimes people are not engaged in making decision of their own way of living. Yeah, so we need people to be empowered on that. But again, tourism as tourism, in Tanzania, I entered this industry 2009. In Tanzania, people were not talking of tourism as their business. They knew tourism was a business of foreigners, not even foreigners, of white people. White people come in to visit this country and go to watch, of course, wildlife. This is how it used to be perceived. And therefore, involvement for me meant to tell these people the business is for everybody, for you to first them to understand that they are also a part of that business, to empower them. That is what I meant. But again, also, if there were needs, for example, to assist them to get engaged in the business, then this should, actions should be taken on such things. That is what I meant by involving them. But also, when I read the procedures for example, for starting a touristic company in this country, those days, now it has changed, The procedures were difficult, I tell you. You would think of somebody who is not able to raise $1 in a day, be engaged in a business, $1 or €1, something like this, in a day. And then you are saying this person can do the business of tourism, which should cost him or her, a capital of over 100 million. Is that possible? So this is what I was arguing here, or this is what I was asking here, that people should be involved and there should be strategies of engaging them. Strategies could be to reduce the procedures for them to be engaged, things like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I would still like to add, like, my query, if tourism is turning into a business, but then those indigenous communities, when they are being evicted, what is the plan? What do they do? Has the government a plan for them, or is it just?
Of course, I told you that, like, those who were moved from Ngorongoro, they were taken to Msomera, a region in an area in Tanga. And this place, beautiful buildings were put up for them. And of course, this process of moving them from the Ngorongoro, was very well communicated by, by the responsible ministry, but also we saw the Prime Minister going there to talk to people. The regional commissioners were working closely with them. Even their own leadership, the leadership of the local communities themselves were engaged, and therefore they were quite well transferred from where they were to Msomera. So, you cannot believe, even people were kind of, where were they, or kind of, where was the government, where was it while they were suffering in the Ngorongoro? Because I tell you, when you are saying to maintain the environment of Ngorongoro to remain intact as it was, It means that there's no electricity there, there's no water. And the places that they were taken, there's water, there's electricity, you know, good houses, you know, a self-contained house, from their thatched house to an iron house.
Okay.
Yeah, that is how it was handled.
Good. Thank you for clarifying this matter. Let me move on to other questions. Now it's you and me, Delphine, until Sairis comes.
Right.
So bear with me, bear with us. How does, or what are the things in place by the tourism boards to limit such negative effects of polluting the environment, of harming societies and communities that are also indirectly involved in tourism, like the indigenous people that we talked about? Is it an issue? Is it a topic that is also being discussed, talked about? There's a lot being done about the nature, but what about the communities? Let's put a focus on the communities. How are they protected? Or
the people are protected. The local communities are protected. For example, and of course, as I said, they're engaged even in planning. These days, you know, with this strategy of like, if you go, for example, specifically to areas like Serengeti, the Ngorongoro, we have these communal management areas, the wildlife management areas, where the indigenous communities are directly engaged. You know, they make decisions for themselves, see the benefits of tourism coming back to them, putting up schools, hospitals, which of course we are not there for them before, but through this, you know, communal management of the resources, they get these benefits. However, I heard you touching the issue of negative effects. Of course, there could be some, and of course, the government, as you put it, the boards, you know, are trying to educate people to make sure that the environment are not polluted, and people are being trained, and they're trained by doing. I've seen people moving around the beaches, trying to, you know, to collect the garbages, put them on trash bins put in place. And for example, in areas like the Serengeti, if you are caught throwing up something, you know, it can cost you 50,000 shillings, you know, per garbage. And I mean, which is equivalent to 20 euros. So there are initiatives which are put in place to make sure that the pollution is not taking place within the attraction sites.
Who is responsible for that? Is there a specific unit?
The government is, responsible for that. The Ministry of Tourism and Natural Resources.
Okay, they're the ones who make sure that such things don't happen.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote in the chat on the negative effects. What about the plans of the road that has to be built through the Serengeti, the tarmac road? I guess that's what it meant. So
far, that plan is not being talked about, so I cannot comment on it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think your question has been answered for now. We don't have much, there's not much information on it. Yeah. So we're about to come to the end of our talk, Delphine. Lastly, I would like to ask you what your recommendation is to the government. Which paths should the government take in regards to tourism?
Oh my gosh, that's really very huge for me, because I have lots of recommendations to the government. That the government should continue to market tourism, should continue to facilitate, should continue to invite people, like should continue to work on the, at least to work on, to improve the investment environment of the people who wants to invest it within the country, etc. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sairis, you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
We missed you. Yeah. what are your thoughts? How can women profit from tourism? Because most of the time we hear that men are mostly involved in the tourism sectors, but women, maybe it's indirectly, but let us know, how are women involved in tourism and how can they even benefit more? Or certain tourism forms, or a certain tourism forms more for women and others for men, and why? Yeah.
For me, first of all, you can't talk about women issues and forget men.
Mm-hmm.
When we discuss women issues, men are supposed to be included.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be addressed in a way that everyone is winning. It's not that women want to take men down and get up. No, we just want to get to to a level that we all have that equal opportunities, equal income, equal pays, and equal everything. And no one is fighting against the other one. Back to the question, as from my previously response,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about education. It's all about awareness. It's all about capacity building.
Mm-hmm.
If these women are well trained, educated, and being empowered, they will know their vital role in the industry, and they will wash away the stereotype. Because sometimes the community think that if women are into tourism, like they're involved in fishy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow tourism industry is not regarded as a modest industry in some traditions and in some customs. So if we are to have more women into the industry, we have to wash that mindset away. That's first. But second, also it should be a way that the stakeholders, the government, government institutions should encourage more women to take the lead into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And women should be trusted and given equal opportunity as men. I remember when I started my enterprise, some of the clients, when they came, because we take visitors into approved forest, and it's a bit up and down. So if I give my clients a female guide, they'll be like, oh, we had that, it's very tough. Can she guide us? Can she get to the top? Can she, like, if we sleep over, can she take care of us? So even the masks, they have that stereotype. So it should be more and more this kind of education. If people are well informed, and if people are well educated and supported by the strong policies and law enforcement, then we'll have women in the map. And on top of that, women are playing vital role in tourism indirectly, because you can't have tourism without food. And like 60 or 50% of farmers in Tanzania are women. So they are feeding these people. They're feeding these tourists, but they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start to have this kind of narrative, then women will have more courage and go up front and take the lead and have equal opportunity and equal pace as men in the industry.
And then this one question, whose responsibility do you think it is to tackle this impact of harmful tourism? The tourists themselves, the tour companies, the government, policies? What do you think? Who's responsible?
It's a job of all. It's a job of all, from the tourists themselves, the enterprises, the business people, the government, and the community.
Yeah, so it's everyone's responsibility. And last but not least, what are your recommendations to the government? Is Sairis gone now?
Daniel, Maembe from TASUCT also asked if he can share some additions.
Daniel, are you in the room? Can you?
Hello, hello. Can you hear? Yes, I'm back.
That's Sairis. Sairis, would you like to answer your question, and then we'll give some
Yes,
room to
yes. Let me. Yeah.
Daniel Maembe.
Yes, let me try. If it doesn't work, please allow my colleague Dan to proceed. But however, I was saying this is a job of all. It's a job of the policymaker, the government, business people, tourists themselves, and even the community. We are all to take responsibility because we are all benefiting in the industry in one way or another. So the government has to set strong and clear policies and enforce them. The business people has to take the initiatives, has real to do. I mean, it shouldn't be a greenwashing.
Yes. I guess with this, we can invite the colleague, Daniel Maembe, who wanted to also share his thoughts. Daniel?
Hello, Daniel. I don't know if you all hear me.
We can hear you. We can see you too.
Okay, so from the point of view, like Sarah was saying about women involvement in tourism, is quite a bit of challenge. And what I remember, Sairis is one of the like colleague for us, and even to the organizations, because I'm working also for the other eco and culture tourism like program. It is known as Royal Eco and Culture Tourism Program. So Sairis take initiative and step to move forward to consulted us, because we beginning after we graduated, we started to the project, and then Sairis was working. So she come and saw us like, oh, you guys, can I give me like more of the coach me and give her like business consultations. So we did it, and it is fantastic. So it's quite a challenge in a tourism sector, though, to find like women who they are more involved in it. Though it's an opportunity for everyone who know it, like people who they get like more courage, they want to join, like especially for women. But there should be like more training, and even right now there is more training for women who they want to join and do tourism. And even there is kind of awards which are women, the one who they have already started since quite a long time. Like there is one company, like one of the inspirational women, I can say, she's inspiring in tourism sector. She have a company, she's known as Zara Tours, Mama Zara. So she has done something in the country, and she's like a role model, a champion to other women. So I can say on that point, I believe that we have a way to go, and we need like more women to come in and join. Though their efforts, as Sari said, they are not seen; they are just behind. And also, when we come to say the need of improving or conserving the environment in the tourism sector, is the role of all the members who they are stakeholders who they are working in the tourism sectors. It's not like the work of one individual or company or a certain organization. It's a rule for everyone to play part. But it's quite challenging, it's quite challenging for everyone to do so. Maybe the government should state a clear policy and rules to force like companies or people who they do tourism to reduce more impact to the environment. They can contribute to the conservations. I think that will be great.
Now that you mentioned it, you said you are in the areas of ecotourism.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
How does the government assist ecotourism or promote ecotourism? Are there any specific ways or strategies that the government has in place to support and promote ecotourism specifically?
For the moment, for what we have and what I remember, since even up to now, the government have the strategy of promoting eco and cultural tourism. In Tanzania, they were having, and right now, because I heard that we went to one of we heard that they shift a little bit more into promoting the whole of the tourism, but they still like have the guidelines in place where they promote it. For example, there is in Tanzania Tourist Board under the ministry, they have the category of promoting the eco and culture tourism program through all over Tanzania. But there were people or organizations, like people who were working in the tourism sector. Like, for example, those who we are working in eco and culture tourism enterprise, we are working like I say, we are not much recognized, but there is a way the government, they emphasize that to promote it more domestically. For example, I can say there is a gap, a little bit of the gap, where more of eco and culture tourism activity, especially because it involves more of the local people at the grassroots level. I will think, for example, in promotion of in the Royal Tour, like the film, we could see like more like short clips. For example, when the Mama Samia, the president, did the hike in the Kilimanjaro, they should promote at least some of the eco and culture tourism around the Kilimanjaro. And also, by the time also they went to Serengeti, they should do the same to those individual people or the community which they are around there. But it's still like maybe 5% or to 10%, like in that promotion. It's not much wide. It's not quite bigger. I think it's more people. The government think that it's more. It's an opportunity for them to promote it. I think there need more time and the opportunity for the government to promote that in that scenario. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your contribution and shedding a light in your hopes and wishes for a more wider, broader promotion of ecotourism. Now,
thank you.
Sairis, you could say something, and then I would like to then close this net talk.
Okay. So my last keynote, maybe, on the point of if the government is supporting cultural tourism. Yeah, it does its efforts, but it's not yet enough. Still more can be done, because these programs of cultural tourism, this responsible tourism, started way back in 1990s. When the government and Tanzania Tourist Board and the Netherlands Embassy, they supported the movement. And for us, we just joined the movement in 2000s. It's when we graduated and everything. So efforts are not yet enough comparing to the opportunities, comparing to the uniqueness that this local community has, the cultural, the natural attractions, the question for employment for women and young people. So still can be done. A lot can be done. More effort can be placed into action, and we'll have more women and more young people engaged in this opportunity and tap the available opportunity. So the government has to put more, has to add more effort that we get where we want to go. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Delphine, Dr. Kessy, this is your opportunity to also give us some closing remarks before I end this net talk.
Thank you. As you know, like in the course of discussion, I realized many of us do not, or maybe the film hasn't done a lot, which is true. The film is not meant to do, almost everything. I tell you, the country has a lot, you cannot cover it. I think even if you have 50 days, you cannot finish, I think. So at least that one is just an abstract. The country has a lot. It is more than minerals, more than culture. And somebody was saying maybe culture was not touched into this film. It is surely covered. I saw the culture of the Zanzibaris. I saw the culture of Maasai people. And it is very well covered, but then it did include all the areas of the country. And I'm sure the filmmaker aimed to tell people Tanzania is like this, and it is an abstract of what could be found in Tanzania. So I would like to welcome each and every one of us to come and visit Tanzania again. I know some of us have been into Tanzania, and those who haven't been there yet, please come and see, but also try assist us. I request you to assist us to send a word of mouth, tell people about our country, because this is what the film is about, to welcome people for investment, for visiting. And of course, the government has shown the willingness, and people are prepared to receive you, to show you what you really, or you're looking for. That is what I might say. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Delphine Kessy. Thank you, Sairis, Bugeraha. Thank you, Daniel Maembe. And also thank you to all the people who've joined and who asked questions, who wrote questions. We tried to answer most of the questions. Thank you very much. Asanteni.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Jioni
Bye.
njema.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Thank you.